What's wrong with the washing machine? This time on Tech Tip Tuesday. Got a text on Tuesday from my wife, says the washer wasn't working. It wasn't agitating. So, got another thing to fix. And then promptly that afternoon at the ice rink, I fell and hurt my shoulder pretty badly. So how am I supposed to get this thing out of there to get to work on it? So it's been a few days. And I should have done it earlier. But that is the way of life. By the way, if you are constantly using Netflix as your companion, maybe you should get a new friend. But anyway, I've got to pull this thing apart, pull off the front cover, pull off the bottom. She said there was a smell of burning rubber, which there's a belt. It could be a motor, but it doesn't look like the motor because things are working. The washer is supposed to, once it fills with water, go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to, it's the agitator, to wash the clothing. And as it does that, there's a motor that does that, and there's some belts that are running around doing all that stuff. And then when it's all done, it's supposed to spin it really quickly to get the water out. Well, the spin cycle works, but the agitator doesn't work. So we'll figure out what the problem is. Washer's filled with water, as you can see. And if you close the top door, then it starts working. Now it's supposed to be agitating, going back and forth and back and forth, but it's not. But there's a lockout, so the only time you can see anything happening is when you close it, but you can't see anything happening. So then you look around, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. Where's the lockout? Well, it happens that there's a little button back there, a tiny little button, that when the door closes, closing it, pushes it in. So you can put a little screwdriver in here so you can see what's happening. And you can tell nothing's happening right now because it just switched to another part of the cycle. Back in there, there's a timer. There are different parts of the cycle. Hear the timer? Timer goes, switches contact, and the next phase happens. This thing's old, by the way. It was given to me for free. Had it as a spare in the basement. This is a spin cycle. So we know that it's spinning. Watch this. Oh yeah, it's spinning. Get all the water out of there. We'll pull it forward, take off the front, tip it back, look at the bottom. Gonna do some disconnecting first though, because you really don't want to work on this stuff. It's not disconnected. Unplug. And turn off the water hoses.
Professor Gill.
And then disconnect.
Can you hear me? Thank you. But just now, we must do.
So down here, we've got the tub. This is the electric motor. This is the pump that's driven by the electric motor. And that is the central shaft. And there's a transmission in there somewhere. And this, you can move it back and forth, and it's all sprung. So there are 3 springs. There's a spring in the back corner, there's a spring in the back corner to try to keep it balanced. I want to be able to take off the agitator because there may be some problem down there, but it took me a long time, well not a long time, but a couple of minutes to find. There's supposed to be a screw down in the center, but there isn't. Alright, here's the underside of the washer. You have right here, that's the water pump. This is the motor, and the motor runs the water pump through this belt. So a little belt right there. And then this motor, the same motor, runs the main drive for the drum. This is the belt that I think has the problem. My wife smelled burning, and I smelled it too. We can then put that new belt on and check it out. The belts are really easy to take off. Hola, Cecia. Belts are really easy to take off. Just grab it, pull it off like that. It's that simple. ¿Quieres que yo ponga el zapato? Yo te voy a poner, espera un ratito. And then the other one drops off like this. It's that simple. Well, here's to hoping it's just a belt. Took some acetone, cleaned off the inside of the V-belt. Used this too, but, well, and actually a bigger, what is that? Bigger wire brush too, but it didn't work super well, so I went with the acetone, and that worked pretty well. One belt, two belts. The tension in this one looks really, really, really small, but the pump works fine, so that doesn't seem to be a big deal. And this one, see the motion of the motor? This whole thing is on a pair of rails and it's spring loaded. Put it all back together, set it up right, see if it works. Found it! Okay, now, simple thing. It wasn't the belts underneath. You can do an inspection of the belts underneath but just by looking at that. It wasn't them. And it wasn't any of the other stuff. It turns out that, see these three little springs down here? Those three springs. There were only two of them. The two over here on the left, those are the ones that were there. Well, not those two. And there's blood on that one. You see the little red bit there? Yeah, that's my blood. But anyway, there were two springs, and there's space for three, but it only calls for two, but there wasn't enough tension, or the little roller bearings aren't working super well. So this thing, as I showed you before, rolls on little bearings, and so this goes back and forth. If you increase the tension on that thing, it pulls it back and tensions up the drive belt. So I thought maybe it needs some more tension in the drive belt. So I took one of the two springs from the left, because it's got two slots for springs on the left, put it on the right, so I don't have anything twisting, because before it felt like it was twisting back and forth and maybe it was binding. And then I took a third one. Well, I made a third one from a different spring I had, because who doesn't have a spring collection? Because, okay, this is the collection of stuff. So in here, you look in this drawer, and in this little drawer, there's a little collection of springs. And, well, from that collection of springs and from my other collection of springs right next to it, see the little spring drawers? Yeah, I was able to take one, cut it a little bit, and make another spring. So now it actually functions. Check it out. Anyway, first, when you turn it on, it starts filling. As I showed you before, the filling happens. Okay, we'll be back to you in a minute. Looked like that, but a little bit too long. The tension wasn't great enough, so I cut it, and turned out the end. That's when I poked my finger, because you cut a piece of metal and that's what happens. But I got a new spring. I'm going to order a new set of rollers, and then replace them later. But this will work for now. So that's what happens when this thing bounces all over the place when it's agitating. Here's what it's supposed to look like. This is supposed to mix everything up and wash all the clothes instead of you doing this by hand, because that's never pleasant. But look at that. It works better than it has in years. We should get some nice clean clothing now. So there you go.